What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Thank you for joining me. This is a bonus segment. I do regular segments every day at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. I had a respectful exchange, at least I hope it was received as respectful, with Nikole Hannah-Jones on Twitter. If you're not familiar with who she is the one who won a Pulitzer Prize for the 1619 Project. The project is a reframing of our country's history to focus more on the date of 1619 as the start date, opposed to 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was adopted. So the year 1619 was when the first slaves landed in Virginia coming from Africa. She's an extremely smart, well-read journalist, professional. So I wanted to have a respectful discussion with her. I want to play the video. This is why we had an exchange. It came from this video from a parent, and I think it's a parent. I'm not even sure about that, but it's in regards to teaching critical race theory in school. It's at a school board meeting in Illinois.
When you talk about critical race theory, which is pretty much going to be teaching kids how to hate each other, how to dislike each other, that's pretty much what it's going to, I don't care what you say, it's pretty much what it's going to all come down to. You're going to deliberately teach kids, this white kid right here got it better than you because he white? You're going to purposely tell a white kid, oh, the black people are all down and suppressed. How do I have 2 medical degrees if I'm sitting here oppressed? How did I get, first of all, time out, because I only got 5 minutes now, 5 minutes. 2 medical degrees, no mom, no dad in the house, worked my way through college, sat there and hustled my butt off to get through college. You gonna tell me somebody that looked like all y'all white folks kept me from doing that? Are you serious? Not one white person ever came to me and say, well, son, you're never going to be able to get nowhere because you know the black people. But guess what? What's sickening about this whole thing is what y'all doing right now is already something I do in my community right now to speak out against stuff, because black folks are getting told by other black folks, oh, you know you ain't going to be able to do nothing out there in the world because them white folks ain't going to let you get no, oh, you know you're not going to be able to do it here because you know, the white man going to keep you down. Well, how did I get where I am right now if some white man kept me down? How am I now directing over folks that look just like you guys in this room right now? How? What kept me down? What oppressed me? I work for myself from off the streets to where I am right now. You gonna sit here and tell me this lie of critical race theory? Of this the reason why black folks can't get ahead because of white folks? Are you kidding me? This is what we come to now. I can't believe we even talking about this right now. The last thing I'm gonna say right here is something that's crazy. Martin Luther King said he wanted his kids to grow up in a world where they are judged by the contents of their what? Their character, not their skin. If they letting this stuff go on right now, it is absolutely doing the complete reverse of what he's doing. So when February comes, don't talk about Martin Luther King. When February comes, don't talk about Black History Month. Y'all gonna sit there and just pretty much pee on his grave with this nonsense? That's exactly what's about to happen. Lastly, we are talking about our kids. We are talking about our children. What's so sickening about me, I love the Discovery Channel. You will see that on the Discovery Channel, animals will put their lives on the line to protect their children from danger. Nobody want to get to the heart of the matter, get to the meat of the matter, get to the moral of the story. It all comes down to it. The person that's going to be suffering from this, the one's going to be hurt from this, is the kids. 10 years from now, if this stuff goes on, whose fault is it going to be? Whose fault is it going to be? Who we going to look back on and blame for this? Because this is stuff we're talking about right now. This stuff is going on right now. I do this stuff on a daily basis. I'm in the hood. I'm in the communities. I'm out there with folks in their face. I've been doing this stuff since I was 18 years old, talking to black folks. And you know what? None of them are buying this nonsense. None of them are. But if you want to implement this into the school system, I guarantee you to the day that I die, I'm going to be the very person right there debunking stuff, tearing stuff down, letting them know they can do exactly what I did and get exactly where I am by putting themselves to work and getting there. And ain't not one white person ever going to keep any of them from getting there. So the CRT stuff, BS.
So that's the video that started our Twitter conversation, and Nikole Hannah-Jones replied to that video, and she said, Frederick Douglass, how is slavery a problem if I ran away and got free? And I think she thought that tweet was more clever than it really was, because to me it actually showed, with all the education and everything she has, it showed a lack of understanding of who Frederick Douglass was. She's trying to make kind of a joke, as this is my interpretation of it. I don't know what else it could be, but this is my interpretation. Trying to say, what if you're not familiar, Frederick Douglass was a runaway slave and became the most prominent figure probably in the movement to abolish slavery. And he wrote books and the abolition movement, and really caused a lot of that movement to take over the country at that time and lead up to the Civil War, and even after the Civil War had to fight for it, to abolish slavery. So she's saying, what if Frederick Douglass had ran away from slavery and then said, how is slavery a problem if I ran away and got free? So she's using Frederick Douglass because he's a runaway slave. But she doesn't understand Frederick Douglass, or she's ignoring the part. Frederick Douglass, like many other leaders I admire, whether it's Fred Hampton or Martin Luther King Jr., not that I agree with everything they've ever said, but at their core, they were people who were coalition builders, working across racial aisles. Frederick Douglass even worked with slaveholders to try and build a coalition. Like, that's how strong he believed in that. I do as well. Across the aisle, like I always talk about, MAGA is not my enemy. Why? I have no reason to hate people who supported Trump, or you call them MAGA. Or anyone, even real white supremacists. I don't hate you. I have no reason to hate you, even if you hate me. That's definitely not her view. And Frederick Douglass was a constitutionalist, believing in the Constitution, even during those times, during slavery. It's easy for me to believe in the Constitution now. It was much harder for Frederick Douglass. He came, just like Martin Luther King Jr., came from the standpoint of, we have this document. It shows me some good. I know you have good in here because I'm reading this document and it is excellent. All I want to do is hold you to the standard of this document. Critical race theory does not believe in the Constitution because it was written and built in the, but with the foundation of slavery and white supremacy and racism. So that tweet is just not a good tweet. But here's our interaction. And I said, this is a woman that wants to have her curriculum. This is a fact. Wants her curriculum in our schools. Are you serious? Why can't critical race theory exist alongside the sentiments of this parent? And again, I don't know if he's a parent, but he was speaking at the school board, passionate about it. So whether he's a parent or not is irrelevant to this conversation. And you see why I asked, like, are you serious? So she goes to calling him a runaway slave? Really? So she replied, this parent, because I don't know if he's a parent or not or whatever, aired his views and I critiqued them. No, you didn't. There's no critique that she provided of what the substance was that he said in that video. So then I said, you think by referring to him as a runaway slave, that's a critique? That's not a critique. That's not a critique. That's an attempt to discredit someone. Do you think our ancestors who really were slaves would be looking at this like, you're right? Like, this is a great comparison? You feel like we're enslaved right now? That's the mentality of this critical race theory. And I know they're going to go to the semantics because the 1619 Project technically isn't critical race theory. It's a praxis of it. So it's critical race theory in practice. That's a semantic argument. It's an offshoot of critical race theory. So they think we're enslaved. That's the mentality. They think we are enslaved. And if you're enslaved, there are, of course, it's by any means necessary to get out of it or to attack those who have you enslaved. Very dangerous mindset. And she wants her curriculum in schools. You attempt to discredit him because he might be a conservative or a Republican. What does it have to do with his speech? Let's debate the substance. And what I'm talking about here is, let me see if I can find it. There was a tweet and it shows him. It looks like that's him, I believe. He goes by Modern Renaissance. I'm not even sure who he is. Said, hey, well, since someone had to rat me out, yes, she's real Candace Owens, my sister, and I'm her crazy big brother. Thanks for inviting your brother, little sis. So it sounds like they're blood brother and sister. I don't know. It's irrelevant to his speech. So then later on, people are discrediting. I knew he was a GOP activist. He was on Fox News. And she said, anything for the hustle. So that's where I came from. Like, let's debate the substance. Whether it is for a hustle or not, is he right? There's plenty of people who are on hustles that have good points. If you think I was comparing this man to Frederick Douglass, is what she replied, who clearly would never have made such an asinine argument, Frederick Douglass would not have believed in critical race theory. I don't know where she's getting this from, but you have completely missed the point. Have a good one. Wait a minute, hold up. I didn't compare him to Frederick Douglass. I said referring to him as a runaway slave. That was her only point of comparing him to Frederick Douglass was. So then I was like, maybe I did miss the point. My takeaway is that you compared this man to a runaway slave who was acting like there isn't still slavery going on. Am I wrong? Just give me clarification. If I'm wrong, explain yourself. No, I was pointing out as a ridiculous a statement as he made. Which statement was ridiculous? I still haven't heard that pointed out. That there has never been a point in history where some members of a marginalized group finding success means oppression does not exist for the masses. So Frederick Douglass, despite every obstacle, somehow managed to escape slavery. He did not then use his exceptionality to convince white people that slavery was no longer a problem because he escaped, and so therefore any black person who wanted it badly enough could escape too. She just said the same thing I said. Why is she going back and forth on that? That's what I just said. You compared him to a slave who got away and acted like slavery doesn't exist. Now, I think she has a point. I'm not, just because you, sir, got your medical degrees doesn't mean there's not oppression. I'm with her on that. If that's her takeaway, I'm with her with that. But you're comparing him to a runaway slave. You didn't say that. And then she said, Frederick Douglass used the fact that he had to escape slavery to then castigate the institution he had to escape from and argue and fight on behalf of the masses of his people who could not get themselves free. True, but you don't know, he was a constitutionalist. He would be much more in line with what my frame of thinking than yours. Critical race theory does not acknowledge the Constitution as some great document. Critical race theorists are not working across the aisle with other people. Man, look it up if you think I'm wrong. That she's completely out of pocket here. I mean, as far as like on the merits of Frederick Douglass. She's coming, and I didn't want to get sidetracked, so that's why I didn't get into that. But that is crazy stuff if she's trying to teach our children and doesn't even know really the true beliefs of Frederick Douglass. Unbelievable. Then I said, maybe so she said something she said, I say this respectfully, I do not think you know what critical race theory is. They always say that. They always say that you don't know what it is, whatever. Further, Black Americans have been overcoming the system. Great. Then you agree with him then. Then my whole point was, why can't critical race theory exist alongside his belief of trying to overcome it? No answer on that part. That's most obvious. Critical race theory is a means of understanding what those barriers are and how they collectively disadvantage. Fine. So then you can understand what those barriers are and how they collectively disadvantage and at the same time overcome them. Great. So let's team up. No, but that's not what she wants. So then I replied, because she's talked about maybe we just disagree on the method of empowering. Oh, wait. So then I put, we view life differently. So of course we view CRT differently. That doesn't mean I don't know what it is. We just view it differently. You never addressed his main point. The facts of the 1619 project, for example, he wasn't talking about the 1619 project, but I said, i.e., for example, the facts of the 1619 project are excellent. However, teaching the interpretation of history as if it's fact in curriculum is wrong. That's what he's talking about. If you don't bring it to schools and you want to practice this at home, I don't give a damn. Go teach your kids this. You do realize it works both ways. If you're a true racist, you can teach your kids to be racist at home. That's not illegal. It's not illegal to be racist. It's not illegal to teach your kids to be racist. That's what critical race theory is on the other spectrum, in my opinion. But if say you're a white supremacist or like a real white supremacist, KKK or whatever white supremacist group, you can teach your kids white supremacy or white nationalism. People teach their kids black nationalism all the time. They do it on YouTube. B1, Dr. Boyce Watkins. These are people I listen to and watch because they have good information, but they're black nationalists, and I'm not. So we don't see eye to eye and everything. Vicky Dillard, there's many of them. But once you bring that to school, no. And homeschooling is not the answer. It's unconstitutional to bring that to school, period. So that's where we kind of left the discussion. I had the other comment saying maybe we just disagree on the method of empowering others. Critical race theory is an attempt to tear down the system, which it is, factually, like capitalism, the founding of our country. They say reframing. It's to tear everything down and rebuild it to a more socialist style upbringing. So CRT is an attempt to tear down the system. His is to overcome the system. I said, I feel we should respect both methods and acknowledge neither conclusion. So his conclusion shouldn't be taught in school either, only the facts. Neither conclusion should be taught to children because opinion is not fact. So that's where we kind of, left off the conversation. And I kind of went on the offshoot. We were talking about homeschooling. That's not a problem either. Homeschooling isn't the answer because promoting religion in school is unconstitutional. If I take my kids out of public school and you're still teaching religion in school, you're violating the Constitution. You're still violating my rights to interact with other citizens who have not been indoctrinated in school. There's the First Amendment, but there's the Establishment Clause that separates church and state. Critical race theory is a non-theistic religion. Or if you don't agree with that, it is definitely opinion taught as fact. That is the separation of opinion and state. It shouldn't happen. At the end of the day, we can't lose focus on the subject matter. I want to show a little bit of the insight of Nikole Hannah-Jones's curriculum with the 1619 Project. And I don't disagree with everything in the 1619 Project, but I want to highlight probably the parts that trouble me to explain it. Mark Lamont Hill played this game. I don't know if you saw the interview with him and CJ Pearson. CJ Pearson is an 18-year-old, soon to be 19-year-old, very young man who came onto an interview with Mark Lamont Hill, was completely unprepared for the conversation. And Mark Lamont Hill said, the 1619 Project is not CRT.
Isn't the 1619 Project critical race theory?
No, it's not actually. It's absolutely not.
But you
so I'll give you
cited it
another
as
chance.
one.
Pure semantics. Like I said before, it is an offshoot. It is a praxis, meaning CRT in practice looks like the 1619 Project. Let me play this clip from Ryan Chapman to show you where it fits in CRT.
Critical race theorists examined America and concluded that racism is a pillar that holds up American society to the extent that America is a regime of white supremacy. That includes most American institutions and most aspects of American life, like our laws, our education system, our culture, our economic system, and our politics, which is all generally shortened by critical race theorists down to being called the status quo.
Okay, now if you disagree, please let me know why. I think that's pretty clear. It's an offshoot of critical race theory. But let me go to the Pulitzer Center where they have the 1619 Project curriculum. Let's look at this. This is the curriculum from Nikole Hannah-Jones. I'm going to go down it. Activities. Look at the age of these children. Look how young they look. When they say they don't teach critical race theories in school, they're playing games with semantics. Lesson plans, activities to extend student engagement. This is where you really build learning in students. So bringing that up, I go in here and you look at it, lesson plans, all grades. There's no limit on the grades. It's all grades. This isn't just college. It's all grades. And then you can go to lesson plans. And it has the whole full-blown lesson plan. This is meant for you as a teacher to use as a reference. The first one says alternate timelines, reevaluating U.S. history. Let's take a look at that. What is the type of activity in this one? So this is editor's note, says that the goal of the 1619 Project, a major initiative from the New York Times, is that this issue of the magazine inaugurates is to reframe U.S. history by considering what it would mean to regard 1619 as our nation's birth year. Doing so requires us to place the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the story we tell ourselves about who we are as a country. So that's the backdrop. Here's where I have a problem. Come together as a class to create a new timeline of U.S. history. Your timeline should start with the year 1619. That is opinion. You can start your timeline at 1776, and that doesn't mean you ignore slavery. You have to start your timeline at 1619. Work with your classmates to order the rest of the events you compiled, display your timeline along the wall, and read your classmates' edition. So that's what reframing looks like. It's to take away from 1776 and to make it 1619. Constructing your family history. I have a problem of this one as well. Let me just do the basic backdrop. I'm not going to read every single one of these, but in Nikole Hannah-Jones, The Idea of America, she describes having to point out the flag of our country, of her ancestors during an in-class assignment. She writes, slavery had erased any connection we had to an African country. And even if we tried to claim the whole continent, there was no African flag. Many Black Americans face obstacles in tracing genealogy because of the violent uprooting and dehumanizing record keeping associated with slavery. The 1619 Project traces how our national history was formed, but what about your personal history? How might you trace, in some cases, imagine your family history? And here's what you do. You go and you talk to your family members, and then now you talk about how might the process of constructing your family history be different from that of your classmates and why. This is a discussion because if I were in that class, I would have to talk to at whatever age this is. They said all grades. What is this, kindergarten, K through 12? So I have to go to my mom and say, here's what with history. And my mom would have to have that conversation of I'm lineage of slavery through Jamaica and come here. And if you have history through the founding of our country, then you would have to be put up as a child in this class, or you would have to talk with your parents about, I have lineage from the slavery's history, and you have to be pretty much shown to be ashamed of your heritage. That should never happen. This is out of bounds right here. It's for children. It's out of bounds K through 12. So you look at it, every single piece of this is reframing and redefining our country's history. Every single phrase, every single piece of it. And a lot of this is opinion. So when you look at it, The Idea of America, these are books, traffic, sidebars of capitalism. So this is the curriculum. Mass incarceration, sugar. So this is talking about anti-capitalism, blaming mass incarceration on racism. These things are systemic issues, I will agree. But critical race theory views them as 100% a consequence of white supremacy. To hell it is. I don't know what the percentage is, and I don't care. That's where the overcoming comes in. So we can talk about these, but you cannot frame these things as 100%. Critical race theory looks at a statistic, and you'll see a statistic. I don't have one handy for me, but you'll see a statistic about more Black men or more Black people in jails than any other race, something to that effect. That has to be 100% racism. It can't be anything else. I'll play this clip, Mark Lamont Hill playing that out on TV.
Studies show that Black students are less likely are more likely to be suspended, less likely to graduate, more likely to receive a harsher punishment in school than their white counterparts for the same infractions. When you control for class, race still shows to be a determining factor. When you look at elite independent schools, where everyone is of the same sort, or if you control for class again, race still continues to be a factor. How do you make sense of this without invoking race or racism?
So that's the curriculum there. You can go through on the website and read it on your own. I'm going to end with this. This is an attempt to radicalize our children. That's what it is. And this is what it sounds like.
So what are some racial differences that you've noticed around you? Who would like to share?
People are different, so they get treated based on like how they look, and who would decide as like the dominant culture.
What is the dominant culture? What does the dominant culture do?
They like make people believe certain stereotypes about a certain group of people, not just blacks, but also browns or indigenous, anybody whose skin color is darker.
Dominant culture is for powerful people with power, and white people make other people think that black people are bad. So that's why black people don't have power.
If a white person kills a black person, they call it self-defense. But if a black person kills a white person, it says murder. That's how unfair like black people's life is.
They actually knew it. They actually said everything.
You hear how she said they got it. They got it right. As if there was no other opinion that they could have had. It also sounds like Colin Kaepernick's transformation. Remember his tweet on 4th of July? Happy 4th of July, everyone. I hope everyone has a blessed day. That was July 4th, 2011. And in 2020, 9 years later, Black people have been dehumanized, brutalized, criminalized, and terrorized by America for centuries and are expected to join your commemoration of independence while you enslaved our ancestors. We reject your celebration of white supremacy and look forward to a liberation of all. That, even though he might have had monetary motivations behind that, that's not the point. That's what that's what radicalizing our children looks like from point A to point B. That's the point of critical race theory. And we'll leave with this. I saw this just today. Google's artificial intelligence work builds upon critical race theory, documents show, best described as a form of race essentialism that demands its adherents recognize and identify race-based oppression in every interaction. There is no option. There is no debate. You have to view those as fact. It's in the programming for artificial intelligence. Google that owns YouTube. These videos won't be allowed on YouTube very much longer. Take care.